Arkansas.
You're anti-trans.
Is my server turfy? Maybe it is. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like I'm not gonna sit here and like continue arguing with nobody. That's really cringe when other people do it. I want to watch. I've got another J.K. Rowling thing. I've got another J.K. Rowling thing with Jessie Gender. I was going to do the ContraPoints one, but I'll come back to that another time because it's quite long. And I'm not turfy. Thank you. I do agree with gender criticals on some stuff, but like, I don't know. And I expect there's going to be some like anti-trans shit because I don't know. It's just what you got to expect if you're not singing from the same hymn sheet or whatever. Anyway, we're moving on. That was fun, but we got to move on. We're breaking down J.K. Rowling's transphobic essay with Jessie Gender. This was like back around when it happened, I think. Somewhere around back when it happened. So, yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in, someone's going to destroy J.K. Rowling one day, you know what I mean? So let's have a look.
Hey everybody, so before this video starts, I just want to say that on accident, I forgot to turn on my external audio equipment while I was recording this video. So the audio in this video is going to be a little bit rougher than...
These are the people that think they can destroy fucking females, you know? Really awesome trans, but who are in your list? I don't know why I'm like burping so much. That's kind of gross. Oh, you already do that. Fair enough. Listen, there's one upside, which is that hopefully I'm unlikely to set off other people's misophonia because I don't eat on camera or down my microphone, and I try and mute and stuff. But anyway.
And usual in my videos. I apologize for that, and I debated...
Yes, this is the competent as fuck person, clearly, who is going to destroy women's rights forever.
Pre-shooting this video, but honestly, this video is incredibly difficult for me to shoot, and I honestly don't know if I have the emotional energy to shoot it again. As you'll see in the video, I felt sick to my stomach. But
emotional energy, yeah. This person is, I think she's mostly famous for crying, and then crying some more. So that makes sense.
At the end of the video, even as I was trying to just remain calm and educational. So again...
Remain calm. Listen, maybe you're too close to this, and maybe you're too thin-skinned if you're really having that much trouble dealing with someone else's opinion. Turfiness of the server. Post-op transsexuals. Yeah, of course. Yeah, listen, I've been called a turf fucking God knows how many times at this rate. If I do video essays, the first thing I'm going to not do is cry like Jessie Gender does. The second thing I'm not going to do is forget to turn my audio on. Every video is difficult for Jessie. Yeah, true. Everything I've watched of her, she cries. You're sub to her. That's fine. Listen, I don't mind people liking the same people that I hate, but I don't even hate her. I just don't like what she does. Anyway, Jessie Gender is the person that made this video. Like, I'm not a fan personally, but then it's possible, like, she does other stuff that just wouldn't interest me that other people might like. I mean, that said, like, most of this seems pretty crazy. Anti-trans hate fuels fascist ideals. When your favorite creator turns out to be pro-Israel. I don't know. I mean, things like movie reviews and shit like that, maybe that's what people like, I don't know. You thought it was a guy talking. Well, it's a trans woman. My main criticism of Jessie Gender is she needs a good editor. Fair enough. I mean, a lot of people get editors and then never listen to any of their stuff, and then it turns out all the shit that they say is like cooked as fuck, but I don't know.
Apologies for the audio equipment in this video. I tried to do what I can to make it as listenable as possible. It's definitely not atrocious, but it's just not up to my usual care and quality. But I just didn't have the energy to reshoot this, and I apologize for that. So thank you for understanding.
Hello, everybody. So as many of you...
Why don't they try and do vocal training? Partly because vocal training is hard. Partly because we've got it in our heads that it's just an identity now, and that's a female voice already.
You probably already know by clicking on this video, J.K. Rowling has yet again been the center of a recent controversy surrounding tweets and now a statement that she has made that have been viewed as transphobic by many. Given J.K. Rowling's obviously huge platform as the author of the best-selling book series of modern times, the Harry Potter series, that has meant so much to so many throughout the years, myself included, as well as combined with her undeniable charitable contribution throughout the years, it's been completely understandable why emotions have become very...
Thank you, Rob Slide. My main criticism of Jessie Gender, she needs a good wardrobe. Yeah, I don't know. My main criticism is I reject almost everything that I've heard her say so far, but...
and people have felt very, very hurt. Again, this includes myself.
When I say so far, I don't mean this video. I barely started watching. This might be based. Listen, I am open-minded enough.
I even recently did a video earlier this week where I discussed what I saw as the harm and pain caused by J.K. Rowling's words alone on just Twitter and her tweets. But on June 10th, 2020, J.K.
You know, you don't have to go on Twitter. You know, you don't have to look at fucking J.K. Rowling's Twitter. You know, you could just block her if you don't like her. You know, none of this shit causes harm if you just fucking log off if you don't like what you're seeing. Do you understand that? What even is that video that plays when someone subs? So, there's a place nearby-ish that has like a deer herd. And the first time me and Charlie went, we got to see them getting fed and stuff. And one of the boy ones just kept mounting all the other girl ones, like trying to get at the food and stuff, and I got to film one of them doing it. So that's the gif I made of it.
Rowling, who had up until now only expressed these views on Twitter, an incredibly limiting platform for deeply nuanced thought and discussion, put up a much longer and more concise essay on her thoughts, discussing her, views on transgender issues and what she sees as the dangers of the transgender agenda and transgender activists. Having sat with and read this essay several times since she published it earlier today, I felt a deep need to respond to it because...
Earlier today, Did we jump in too quickly? Did we jump in with our emotions instead of giving it enough time to process? I followed and watched the streamer once. They didn't know it was transsexual because their voice was very female. Someone doesn't want to put voice into work. They shouldn't be hurt or angry. Yeah, I agree. People are going to hear a male. It's the same with me. People are going to hear a male sometimes. My voice is kind of in between.
And I say this without intent for hyperbole or as a means to directly attack J.K. Rowling as a person herself, but as a trans person, I find her words in this essay to be extremely harmful and dangerous.
This is already going to cringe me the fuck out, isn't it?
To not only transgender people, and that includes trans men, trans women, and non-binary people, but also towards women.
These words didn't harm me whatsoever, just saying. I don't know what harm she's talking about. When people say harm, without defining what they mean by harm, what specific harm they're talking about, to me, I just disregard. I'm not interested then. I don't care. You're just trying to say someone's bad.
Women in general, trans or cisgender alike. And cisgender, for those of you who don't know, means non-transgender. And what's worse, I find personally many of her thoughts to be incredibly deceptive and manipulative, especially
deceptive and manipulative. You don't know this person and that your exposure to them is largely things that they've written, right?
In the way that she frames many of her ideas. And while I can't know for sure whether these manipulations were intentional or conscious on J.K. Rowling's part, given Rowling's clear skill as a writer over the years and the fact that she herself states that she has, quote, met many trans people, read sundry books, blogs, and articles by trans people, gender specialists, intersex people, psychologists, safeguarding experts, social workers, and doctors, and follow the online discourse online and in traditional media, end quote, I personally find it incredibly hard to believe that she doesn't know when she is framing her arguments in a way that leaves out much needed context.
She sounds upset already, Jesus. Leaving out much needed context. I guess we'll see.
In order to further arguments or garner sympathy for a position that, again, in my opinion, as I stated before, actively harms and hurts transgender people and cisgender women alike.
This person's worldview also harms people. If they want kids to transition, some of those kids aren't actually trans. They're going to end up going through a lot of irreversible procedures and so on that weren't right for them because they're not actually trans. That's also harm. So there's harm on both sides of the equation.
So for this video, I'm going to directly respond to J.K. Rowling's words in her essay as best I can, to try to provide that much needed context that she leaves out, as well as point out where I believe Rowling is being manipulative and harmful. Again, intentionally or unconsciously, I don't know. But before...
She looks and sounds like she's on the verge. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be able to stop noticing that until she starts crying. Always the weird authoritarian TRA types who feel the need to put their propaganda. Must be selection bias. Surely not all trans people. Yeah. Jessie did one on the Barbie movie. Yeah, there was a Barbie movie thing. I don't watch people's like reviews of movies and stuff because I barely watch movies. And I don't necessarily need someone to explain to me why X is like trans or queer or something.
Before we get completely started, I need to state a few things up front before I delve into the meat of this. Firstly, I sadly don't have the time to get into the entirety of the background or the history of TERFs or TERF ideology in this video. And TERF ideology is basically the focus of J.K. Rowling's essay and what I'm going to be talking about. If I do go into
I don't trust that this person's gonna accurately explain whatever she thinks TERF ideology is, but oh, thank you, Miss Chief. But again, we'll see.
The entire breakdown of the ideology, this video will be endless hours long, and I honestly do not have the time or energy or emotional ability right now to get into all that. And honestly, responding to this essay in and of itself was hard enough for me on an emotional and time-consuming level. So while I'm going to try to make this video as accessible as I can for anyone who may not know the full context or know the full information going into this essay, I would encourage anyone who hasn't already to either check out my last video I did on J.K. Rowling, where I do go over a brief overview of TERF ideology, albeit in a much more
well, you call it transphobia, so I'm starting to get an idea of whether you're going to be honest or not.
angry and emotional state of mind at the time, given when I wrote that video, or if you want
When is she not?
a much more lengthy and researched dissection of TERF ideology along with historical context as well, I would encourage you to go check out the Vox article on TERFs that I've linked down in the description below. This fight within the feminist movement about trans inclusivity is by no means new, and it has been going on for many, many decades, as the Vox article does a great job of going over. The second thing I wish to say is I want to be very clear about my intentions with this video, for reasons which will probably be elucidated later on in my response. This video is not meant.
So we got bias already, anti-trans agenda. That's an interesting way of framing it. You're a grown trans person in the West. Everything's emotional to this person. I'm just trying to acknowledge that and continue on. I don't know, because I don't like when people like cry in these kind of videos. I feel like they're trying to manipulate me. I don't like it. I don't think that we need to try and push like an emotional angle like that. But at the same time, I don't know that someone's trying to be manipulative just because they're crying. So I don't know. I'd rather people kind of, you know, it's YouTube. Like, is that what we really want? I don't know. It's not that interesting. I'll read this another time.
Meant as an attack against J.K. Rowling on a personal level. I am not stating that she is Voldemort or a bitch or any of those things. I'm not attacking her as a person. While I am personally hurt as a fan of her work, someone who's
personally hurt, I came across this all the time as well. I'd talk about my ideas about something, and people would take it personally when I wasn't talking about them. They probably weren't anywhere near my mind when I was talking about whatever it was I was talking about. But people make it personal. People apply themselves to general statements, and that's a really toxic trait in my opinion. I don't think you should be always doing that. And I think that this person may have a habit towards that.
Whose moral compass was influenced by her Wizarding World at a very young age, and also as a trans woman who feels
moral compass, there we go. I'm an emotional person. I would not make a career out of talking about things that make me cry. Fair enough.
Feels that J.K. Rowling's words were harmful to me directly, as well as many others who I care about. Hurt as a fan of her work, someone whose moral compass was influenced by her Wizarding World at a very young age, and also as a trans woman who feels that J.K. Rowling's words were harmful to me directly.
That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. I don't accept that.
As well as many others who I care about who are much more vulnerable than me.
Yeah, you shouldn't be encouraging this shit, you know what I mean? Why are you encouraging this shit? Just stop making everything about you.
Trans or not, the point of this video is not to vent that hurt.
It's coming any second now. She's really on the verge. Jesus Christ.
The point of this video is to try to educate about the issues that J.K. Rowling is talking about in her essay, to try to use what little platform I have to push back against a woman with a much larger platform who is using said platform to hurt. Regardless of
she's using it to hurt. Well, I guess she'd say differently.
What I'm sure are her positive intentions.
So she doesn't even get a choice in the matter. That's nice. She doesn't get to have her own opinions because it might be hurtful. This is just... the implications of what she's saying here are like crazy to me.
to hurt vulnerable communities and people. And my goal is to try to educate all of you out there about the larger issues that are exemplified by her words, but by no means were started with them. And the final thing I wish to discuss before jumping into the meat of this video is something that I wish to say up front, even though I will be talking about it again later on in this video. J.K. Rowling does discuss her history as an abuse survivor in her essay. That is something, regardless of the issues I have with and the pain I feel at the rest of the words in her essay, that I wish to say up front.
Seems like the problem is, it seems like everyone wants to educate, but the problem is they don't know how to teach. Yeah, it kind of feels that way. The other thing is, people don't understand that not everyone even needs educating. Like, the amount of times people will come to my stream or come to me directly and tell me a whole bunch of shit that I already know. It's, like, so annoying. I've yet to see anything from JKR that hurts or is transphobic. Seems like someone who's pro-woman, who's driven to extremes because of TRAs. I agree with that. I think she kind of perpetuates a lot of shit slinging these days, and she should be above that, but I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of J.K. Rowling, and that includes, like, her writing. I'm not into, like, Harry Potter or anything. I think overall, I probably agree with her, and I think that her essay, like, on reflection from years later, like, there was a lot of stuff in there that was ahead of its time. Because there's lots of stuff that is only really coming to light now as an issue, and she kind of called a lot of stuff, like all these young autistic girls that are suddenly getting these taken off, you know what I mean?
That I am entirely respectful of, and do wish to acknowledge her bravery at talking about that in such a public way. While I do wish that she had not wielded that story of abuse in a way that harmed vulnerable communities, I want to make clear—
God, that's so narcissistic. In a way that harms, like, that's her abuse story, man. Like, Jesus Christ, have a bit of empathy.
that while I am going to be critical of J.K. Rowling in this video, I by no means wish to diminish the very real harm that she faced as an abuse survivor.
How big of her.
Okay, I know that that was an incredibly long intro, but I feel that it was needed because I want this video to be a resource and to be incredibly, incredibly careful. And so—
what's awesome about this so far?
With that being all said, let's begin. So, while there are many ways I could do this video, I think the best way that I'm going to be able to address all this is by going through JK's essay in a linear fashion and addressing the major themes and concerns that I see.
So you're just going to go front to back. Wow. You could have been doing that the whole time. It's almost 8 minutes into the video.
I'm not going to be able to touch on every single issue present in her essay because there are many, 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 many of them, but I will try to get at the broad strokes and inform about the major issues at play. So, first and foremost, in her essay, J.K. Rowling addresses her history at being called a TERF, basically recapping the entire saga of people calling her views transphobic and where that all started. So, I myself am going to give a condensed version of all of this. This basically all started when it was discovered that J.K. Rowling had liked some tweets by gender-critical feminists, otherwise known as TERFs, or trans—
I don't know how you can say this out loud and not feel ridiculous, because she's defending, like, people hating on someone for liking a tweet. Like, I'm actually kind of glad at the whole, like, making it so that these, these fucking likes are anonymous. Because the alternative is, every time someone likes something remotely suspicious, it's always like, oh, you shouldn't be liking that, that's transphobic. It's like, shut the fuck up. Get the fuck off Twitter if you can't handle that kind of thing.
Trans exclusionary radical feminists. This was later compounded upon when she began to follow a YouTuber on Twitter known as Magdalene Burns, another gender-critical feminist. In her essay, J.K. Rowling said she followed Burns in an effort to contact Burns directly. These moments led many to believe that J.K. Rowling also shared these views of these gender-critical feminists, which led to online harassment of J.K. Rowling, but we'll be talking about online harassment and abuse later on in the video.
Okay. She didn't condemn it. She still might not condemn it. What I'm expecting, to be honest, is that's bad, but, and then a whole load of stuff.
Though I do want to make it clear here that that did happen to her. Then, in 2019, J.K. Rowling tweeted active support for one Maya Forstater, a UK tax specialist who lost her job over tweets that were later deemed to be transphobic, and then later—
By the way, this video is from 2020. Maya Forstater's appeal, I think, was a year or two after that, and she ended up winning the case.
Went to court as a result of her losing her job, a case which she lost. J.K. Rowling's tweets—
By the way, I don't know if anyone is actually, like, maybe she's, I'm sure there's probably someone that's, like, done a video. Like, I can see, actually. Magdalene Burns died of brain cancer. She might have. She had some kind of, condition. I'm not too familiar. I need to watch Magdalene Burns, because I never have, and I was one of those people that formed an opinion based on like that one tweet, which isn't a great tweet, but if we're fucking besmirching her name over that, then how many other people's names need besmirching that aren't, you know? So yeah, I don't know. None of it seems even that crazy. Because I don't know if any of these people even talked about her appeal, you know what I mean? I doubt I'd really see it. But yeah, so as far as they know, the law is on their side in regards to Magdalene Burns, but that won't be the case for super long from here.
Stated, quote, dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who haven't, live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex
Cliche, but it's like these lot read 1984 and thought Big Brother were the good guys, yeah.
is real. Hashtag I stand with Maya. Hashtag this is not a drill. This tweet, combined with J.K. Rowling's tweets earlier this week and now her essay, all seem to confirm that J.K. Rowling's ideological stance is in line with TERFs and gender-critical feminists like Burns and Forstater. Now these are all facts which Rowling herself freely states in her essay. However, this all highlights how Rowling is going to be using framing in her essay by not giving proper context to many of her statements. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, Rowling says this about Magdalene Burns, who passed away in September 2019 from a brain tumor. Quote,
yeah, brain tumor. There we go. Thank you.
Magdalene was a great believer in the importance of biological sex, and didn't believe lesbians should be called bigots for not dating trans women with penises. This is all that Rowling states about Magdalene Burns, yet there is much more to Magdalene Burns' views.
So we've already heard this argument, I guess. The thing is, if J.K. Rowling was genuinely like friends or like got on with Magdalene Burns, would she really remember her for like a handful of tweets that people find egregious? You know what I mean? Because I mean, what's going to come up? I guess we've got video quotes, so that's at least something. But usually it was like the tweet that we'd see, you know? We might not even see the tweet. Hey, we might be going in a slightly different angle. Who knows?
Burns, in both her YouTube videos and in public speaking events, has repeatedly attacked and spread misinformation on trans women.
Yeah, see, misinformation on trans women, like that. What does that mean? I guess she's gonna say, but like,
saying that, quote, trans women are men.
How's that misinformation? A man is an adult human male.
End quote. And going even further to state that trans women are, quote, blackface actors, end quote, and quote.
I don't agree with the blackface actors thing. I don't know how someone would look at someone like me and think that I'm doing woman face when I wear like leggings and like hoodies and stuff, when I very much don't put out a stereotype or like fetishized version of what I think femininity is. I don't really agree with that point of view, but I don't see what the problem with someone having that opinion is. Men who get sexual kicks from being treated like women. And like, again, is this misinformation? It sounds like it's based on research, that being Blanchard, but we all know how these people feel about Blanchard, so I don't know. Me personally, I think AGP has more validity to it than gender identity theory.
Men who get sexual kicks from being treated like women. Regardless of...
Also, very out of context. Important to remember.
Of your opinion on trans women in general, her words are incredibly inflammatory, hateful, and intentionally vilifying of and dehumanizing of transgender people.
This is the Italian footballer thing. I'm so tired of saying it, but I feel like I have to. It's like this person gets grazed on the arm and flings themselves to the floor as if their leg snapped in two. Woman face refers to drag queen rather than trans. Okay, fair enough. Listen, I haven't seen these videos, and she's extremely selectively choosing what information I'm to see out of these videos, because I haven't seen them. So yeah. I don't know, man.
Women. Regardless of your opinion on trans women in general, her words are incredibly inflammatory.
No, this is not regardless. I'm also a trans person, and I think you need to thicken up your skin a bit. Understand how people are going to have different opinions, and people are going to find the idea that you can change from male to female or in reverse preposterous, and stop trying to force people to believe a certain thing.
Hateful and intentionally vilifying of and dehumanizing of transgender people.
Nah, you need to toughen up.
There's much more I could say about Burns, but we have to move on to Maya Forstater, who Rowling's tweeted support of, as I said, and in her essay only states, quote, Maya lost her job for what were deemed transphobic tweets, transphobic being in quotes there. This is incredibly diminishing of Maya's actions. In September 2018, Forstater wrote in a letter to UK Conservative Party MP Anne Main, quote, please stand up for the truth that it is not possible for someone who is male to become female. Trans women are men and should be respected and protected as men. That very same month, Forstater reiterated similar statements on Twitter, repeatedly calling trans women males.
She sounds more she sounds more upset, like here, like she is really on the verge now. But it's the men thing. I think she has a real sticking point there.
To become female. Trans women are men and should be respected and protected as men. That very same month, Forstater
the way she said that very same month, like, oof, it's so close.
Reiterated similar statements on Twitter, repeatedly calling trans women males. Later in
yeah, I feel like this is like a real sticking point. I think she really doesn't like the implication that trans women are male, which is what they are, necessarily. If trans woman is a type of woman, it's the type of woman where you're not a woman because you're male. That's the unifying factor of trans women. It's their maleness.
More drastically, in a long series of tweets, Forstater repeatedly insulted and misgendered gender-fluid credit union senior director Pips Bunce, calling her, quote, a man who likes to express himself part of the week by wearing
Gender fluid, like what?
Credit union senior director Pips Bunce.
Pips Bunce. Pips Bunce. Okay, there we go. British executive. I thought we were anti-capitalists. I guess not. So that's Pips Bunce there.
Calling her, quote, a man who
likes to express himself part of the week by wearing a dress. I mean, yeah, kind of seems that way. A part-time cross-dresser. Oh, it's Pips Bunce. So like that, basically. Like, no, I have no idea what MX Pips Mix Pimps Bunce. Mix Pips Bunce. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm okay. I'm okay for that one. Nah, don't need more of that. A white man who likes to dress in women's clothes. See, what bothers me is like, what's his race got to do with anything? That's the only thing that bothers me. Is this not true? Who gives a fuck about fucking gender fluids? Why do we want to do anything with lesbians? Well, I don't know, it depends.
Who likes to express himself part of the week by wearing a dress. Quote, a part-time cross-dresser. And, quote, a white man who likes to dress in women's clothes. Maya also repeated these beliefs in personal Slack conversations and called
I see nothing wrong with any of that, except the mentioning of his race. I don't think that was necessary. I mean, she's white too, right? Pimp's bums. Oh my god, I'll let you lot have fun. I'm not trying to be mean about this person, but clearly they chose that name, and it's not a name that I would have gone with myself. But hey, people make fun of me for being called Mary, so I don't know.
Call Bunce's identity literal delusions. Maya.
What's wrong with that?
Would also link to articles on Twitter comparing the use of trans women's proper pronouns as equivalent to using date rape drugs on women, as well as another article defending the use of trans people's dead names, aka
notice how there's no like things appearing.
Their pre-coming out names in
yeah, who cares about dead naming? Just get over it.
Public settings, along with even more tweets misgendering other non-binary people and trans women while openly refusing to use their correct pronouns.
You can't force people to use your pronouns, I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way. You don't have the right to the words that come out of others' mouths. That's ridiculous.
Now, all of this ran counter to the, quote, Gender Recognition Act in the UK, which Forstater was against, which legally states that trans women are women and trans men are men. Yet, even if we ignore the law, even worse.
Yeah, that's just what the law says. Did that poor person's... I don't think you get guys called Pips. I could be wrong. Listen... No, Philip. Okay, so it's a Pippa Pips bomb. Gender fluid diversity champion. This person, Jesus. Usually we wouldn't be sticking up for like executives and stuff like that. Yeah, it's very authoritarian. I do not like this kind of thing at all. Yeah, weird.
Worse, Rowling ignored the basic harm that Forstater's words caused trans people.
I didn't get caused any harm by that just then, so I don't know. I'm a trans person. Do I not get a say? Because you're offended and I'm not, you're automatically the one that gets the opinion on that one? I don't fucking know.
I've done a video delving into these issues in more depth, but in brief, numerous studies have shown that actively misgendering transgender people leads directly to suicidality rate.
Numerous studies. Oh, of course there's no, like, Snopes.com, nice. Information on the damage of misgendering. This is the kind of shit that WPath likes pushing. Oh, this is Healthline. This is just a opinion piece. What can you do to prevent misgendering? Prevent misgendering in your neighborhood today. Wow. glad.org. More info on misgendering. Oh, this is victims of crime. Oh, it's going to be another fucking white suburban leftist trans person complaining about a death rate that this person is not involved in because it's people of color, it's people in other countries to the USA. Like, these are not the people experiencing the violence when it comes to, like, violence against trans people. So they could survive gender dysphoria, but being called a man was what pushed them over the edge. Am I just cynical? Or no, you're not cynical. It is ridiculous. What was I looking for? Fuck. More info on misgendering. Childtrends.org. Oh, it's not there anymore. Glad got in trouble for stealing donations. It doesn't really surprise me. A lot of these things just seem like money laundering. I don't even know what I mean by that, but I find them dodgy, so. Okay, well, that was a waste of time.
In the trans community. A 2018 study by the University of Texas published in the Journal of Adolescent Health, for example, found that trans youth who were gendered the way they wished to showed 71% fewer symptoms of severe depression. And
how did they get that data? Did they ask them? Why would a trans person tell researchers that they are more likely to be suicidal if someone misgenders them? Is it because they don't want to be misgendered? Think about that.
65% decreases in suicidal attempts and 34% decrease in suicidal thoughts. The Williams Institute of UCLA.
Yeah, that's definitely suicidal thoughts. How do you measure them? By what people tell you? I don't know. It's very open to, like, bias. Imagine those who are dilating while watching. Listen. I don't know. I've got nothing, actually. I'm so sorry. I wonder how much grifting contributes to the GDP. A decent amount, yeah.
They also found that trans people who were misgendered showed higher rates of suicide attempts, including being 50 to 54% more likely to attempt suicide if they were harassed at school for being trans, 60% more likely if it was done by a doctor.
I mean, bullying in general, you kind of could say that about. Should trans people be bullied for being trans? No, of course not, but I don't know. There's some shitty people out there. This is why I say thicken your fucking skin. Stop getting upset by things. Don't read things on the internet and then make a whole video sounding like you're gonna fucking bubble the whole time.
Doctor or healthcare provider, and 57 to 60% more likely if it was done by a government worker or a person in a position of institutional power, which, as a tax
This is weirdly specific. Oh, as a tax-paying American
specialist, Maya Forstater was.
Oh, a tax specialist. Okay, never mind. I fucked that up.
By the way. There are many more studies that bear out these facts, by the way, not just those two, and I've linked to a few of them in the down below. I cannot repeat this enough. Misgendering, and most especially repeatedly and intentionally misgendering trans people, on top of harassing and discriminating against us, actively harms trans people, increasing our mental health issues, while also directly dehumanizing us by removing or simply acknowledging basic respect for us in public spaces.
So what's the solution? You're never going to not get misgendered by someone now and then. At least she isn't saying that misgendering literally kills. I've had that one before.
Again, I did a whole video on this issue, which I'll link in the down below. And that one's a little bit more fun because it has Star Trek in it, and that's just more fun than this video is going to be. So, as is borne out by science and studies like those ones, both Forstater and Burns, not only consistent but militant and public persistent misgendering of trans people around them was not only legally wrong under the Gender Recognition Act, it was actively damaging and harmful to trans folks.
all of this is pretty much irrelevant because this will come back round. Maya Forstater is going to win her appeal. It hasn't happened yet because June 11th, 2020. Star Trek font. Yeah, she's into Star Trek. I don't know. Just ruminating it and making herself feel more oppressed. Yes, that's what these trans echo chambers do. And that's what I was talking about with the Dr. Jamie thing. They go on about all these different bills going on. I knew people like this in the fucking UK going on about some bill being potentially introduced in fucking Arkansas or something. And it's all like, oh my God, the world hates us and stuff. It's like, just tune this fucking shit out. Just chill. Militant. Yeah. All people who don't conform well to society standards can get bullied and feel ostracized and depressed as a result. Yeah, true. I've experienced plenty of that. There are a lot more people willing to accept you now for being trans versus 15 years ago. Yeah, I imagine that's true. I wasn't trans 15 years ago, but I've never been accepted much anywhere because I'm crazy, so...
Also, by the way, Forstater was not fired. She was just not rehired after her contract ended. Something she went to court over and lost her case.
Lost her case? How do you say fucking Arkansas? Arkansas. There you go. I'm going to say Arkansas from now on.
Basically the exact reasons that I've given above. Yet, despite both women's history of repeated abuse towards the trans
abuse? How is it abuse now? Fucking log off the internet.
Community, Rowling frames both Forstater and Burns in her essay as simply stating that biological sex was real. That's all that they did. They just...
Well, yeah, because it probably sounds that way to her. And it kind of is what she's saying. You accept us. Oh, thank you so much. Listen, I've met so many nice people since I've done this. I've met plenty of horrible people too, but, you know, I used to work bar at Wetherspoon. I can deal with people being a bit mean once in a while. Not fired, just not rehired. Yeah. Well, all of that is irrelevant anyway because Maya Forstater will appeal this case and will win it in time.
Just said that biological sex was a thing. And for that, they suddenly became victims of transgender activists who attacked them for simply stating a simple fact of biology. Rowling leaves out the context of these two women in an effort to garner sympathy for them and frame transgender...
Arkansas, I was not listening to whatever the fuck she was saying.
...of transgender activists who attack them for simply stating a simple fact of biology.
Well, should transgender activists be attacking anyone? Should they be going off on someone for just having a different opinion? I'm noticing you're not, I notice you're not really saying much about that. Max got banned from Twitter. Oh my God. Torrent ended up blocking me finally. Like, he really made a good go of it. He wanted to continue doing that debate that we already had, because for some reason he forgot to make any actual points, and so did Max. Very one of us energy from the TRA crowd. Yes, very much so.
Rowling leaves out the context of these two women in an effort to garner sympathy for them and frame...
Mate, what's this? What's this? Insisting on fucking recording when you're emotional and like on the verge of tears. How are you not doing the same thing?
Transgender people and trans activists as the ones who are the sole active harassers. The only people who are actively harassing these two women.
The problem is, does J.K. Rowling really harass people much? She gets harassed an awful lot. And when she responds to people, it's her idiot followers that jump in on that shit. So I don't know. They really don't... Sometimes it feels like, when we were watching the Sean video earlier, sometimes it feels like these people do not know how to fucking play the game and are angry about it, you know?
And Rowling herself as well for supporting them. Instead of acknowledging the harm and harassment that Forstater and Burns actively contributed to.
Well, you could at least describe it first. Like, misgendering? Like, I don't know. I don't know any other group that's this fucking precious about things like pronouns. Like, being called, like, the slightest thing they don't like.
In the face of the law and science. Rowling states that Burns was...
It's the type of harassment that you can easily avoid by not looking up hashtags on Twitter. Yes, true. This person could have logged off at any point and been like, I don't like this, it's making me emotional, I'm gonna maybe come back to it another time. But no, you gotta record the video when you're at your height of emotion for maximum impact. But yeah, those people are playing the victim, sure. Hey, listen, you're all hypocrites. Maybe that's the easiest way to say it. You're all fucking cry-bullying, and it's hilarious to watch, but at a certain point, it's like, okay, well, this is actually quite pathetic.
was called a bigot for stating that she didn't want to date trans women with a penis, for example, as I stated in the quote above from Rowling. Rowling's was not contributed to in the face of the law and science. Rowling states that Burns was called a bigot for stating that she didn't want to date trans women with a penis, for example, as I stated in the quote above from.
Oh, also science. Sure, everyone says the science is on their side.
And Rowling herself as well for supporting them, instead of acknowledging the harm and harassment that Forstater and Burns actively contributed to in the face of the law and science. Rowling states that Burns was called a bigot for.
Oh yeah, and in the face of the law, that's not true either, because she wins the case. Amazing, but these people never update this shit. Like, maybe she did cover the Maya Forstater thing, but I don't know.
That she didn't want to date trans women with a penis, for example, as I
Arkansas
stated in the quote above from Rowling. Rowling was not called a bigot for this, let me be clear on that. She was called a bigot for consistently dehumanizing, insulting, and belittling trans people. And then.
Okay. These fucking summaries, man. Obviously, they say that. Fuck me. Obviously, they see it differently. Like, I feel like the only way to talk about this kind of shit is to try and understand the other side. There wasn't too much on this. Every time I see her, she's like upset. But then I guess, listen, I probably do pick certain topics because I'm not really that interested in like her Star Trek takes, for the pure reason that I've really never watched Star Trek, and it's not something that I particularly want to get into. Arkansas. Yeah, that's what I said. Exactly.
Mask that dehumanization by saying, oh, it's all about biological sex. I'm only stating biological sex is a thing.
Well, to them, that's the root of the issue. Like, to them, that is how it is. Like, Jesus Christ, only you get your own, like, autonomy on your opinions and shit. No one else does. You get to tell them what they're doing, even though they don't see it that way. You get to put yourself in the center of the fucking universe. It's just cooked.
It's deliberate obfuscation. And let's be clear here, I've also done a video on the issues of discrimination against trans people in the dating pool. Again, linked below. But few, if any, transgender people argue that someone is a bigot for simply not wanting to date or have sex with someone.
Oh, fuck off. People have made that fucking argument. Like, you're not fucking talk about obfuscation and then make one of those stupid fucking statements that people make where it's like, well, no trans people actually believe that. And it's like, well, no, they kind of do. I'm sorry. Oh my God.
Who has genitalia that they don't find appealing. If you don't want to have sex with someone who has a penis, that is understandable, and no one should force that upon you. And no one will if they're a good person, trans or not. The real issue that trans people try to discuss.
So then is part of the problem that there's a lot of bad people out there? Would you agree that misgendering is kind of inevitable and the best way? Yeah, to encourage people not to do it. Obviously, you can't control what people say, but can't you also work on yourself and be a bit more thick-skinned? Can't you also work on being able to take that shit and not lose your shit in public or whatever the fuck? Why can't we do both things? Like, protect yourself and, you know, work out a way of handling it when it happens, because it's going to happen. And also say, hey, probably shouldn't misgender people. Like, it's not difficult, but we somehow fucked both of them up because we treat it like misgendering someone is like crime of the century, and that any suggestion that trans people should thicken skin a bit, that's like transphobic and like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like victim blaming or something. It's so fucking cooked. Like, if this was the best we had, this person and like Sean and people like that, if this was the best we had, no wonder the trans side got fucking rolled, you know what I mean? Living for what people say about you when you leave is a sure way to live miserable. True, absolutely.
Us, when it comes to people like Maya and Burns, is that transgender people are often excluded from the dating pool simply for being trans. Saying, I don't want to date trans people as a general rule, regardless of genitals, is an issue. And again, no one is forcing someone to date trans people. Believe me, if you don't like trans people, most trans people don't want to date you anyways. We just ask that those who have an instant and deep-seated reaction against even the thought...
I actually prefer transphobes. There's something hot about it. I'm not going to lie.
...of dating trans people.
That's a trick, by the way.
Simply for them being trans?
Victim culture has become a social contagion, yes. Very much so. I mean, it's just part of the propaganda though, right?
may be harboring internalized transphobia. Transphobia that they may not even be actively or consciously aware of, by the way, and that maybe we should all just simply acknowledge that as a fact and that it exists to try to determine a way to discuss it constructively. Again, no one is forcing someone to have sex with someone who has a penis if they don't want to have sex with someone with a penis.
Rapists do, but sure.
Regardless of the gender identity attached to it. We are only discussing that maybe some of the reason that that is the case is due to internalized transphobia that we all
How is a gender identity attached to a penis, by the way?
have as a society, including trans people. We also have internalized transphobia that we need to deal with. Transphobia is not necessarily something that...
Oh yeah, I have that apparently. It wasn't really very well explained to me, so if anyone knows what my internalized transphobia is all about, please let me know, because I don't know my own thoughts, I guess.
Is someone actively hating someone. It is just something that we all internalize, just like racism. We all harbor racist attitudes and ideas in our brain.
Do we? I don't know if I do, but sure. Okay. I don't know how much weight I put on these kind of theories and stuff. Like, I don't know. I think these kind of people like to be able to sort of add up the world as a bunch of equations when it just doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, I see quite a lot of people. I don't necessarily want to extend this criticism to Jessie gender, but like, I see a fair amount of people who seem to replace their empathy, because they never had any, with intersectionality, or instead you just get to pick and choose who you will give your empathy to based on whether they deserve it via privilege or something.
Even if we're not consciously aware of it, but it's something that's seeped in through society. And that's all that anyone is talking about with these issues. And again, the overall issue is not that women like Maya and Burns won't sleep with trans people. Is that they use this feeling of victimization in order to wield a sword against the trans community.
Wield a sword against the trans community. Well, I mean, I think they wouldn't see it that way. I think they'd see it as wielding a shield for women. Jessie is trying to act as if trans people aren't as shallow as the rest of us. Yep, true. Anyone could reject anyone for whatever reason they had. No questions asked. Yeah, true. There's not many trans people I would date. Like, the only trans people, bearing in mind, to me, trans is like transsexual. Like, there's a few trans women I've seen out there that I probably would date, but like, most people I wouldn't. And I don't like penis, you know? I'm not into it.
Something we're going to delve further into in the next section. Next up in her essay, Rowling extrapolates upon the sympathy she attempted to garner for Forstater and Burns to argue that those who are deemed to be TERFs by transgender activists are simply victims of abuse and intimidation, simply for stating their beliefs that biological sex exists. Rowling does so by starting with the abuse and harassment that Rowling...
Why can't we ever... Oh, see you later, Rob McKay. Good luck, by the way. We're quite people saying intersectionality is such an eye roll. Yes, listen, I'm not black, and I find it fucking painful. And people use it to just jump over to different points and like avoid the actual point being discussed.
Simply for stating their beliefs that biological sex exists.
Why can't we ever engage them on that ground, you know? Why can't we ever engage them in this way? Is it because they'd automatically win? Is it because this isn't a female that we're looking at? This isn't a woman? I fell madly enough with the girl once. Genitalia definitely stood in the way. Yeah, exactly. Like, I would struggle dating someone with a penis myself.
Rowling does so by starting with the abuse and harassment that Rowling herself faced for stating these views. Activists who clearly believe themselves to be good, kind, and progressive people swarmed back into my timeline, assuming a right to police my speech, accuse me of hatred, call me misogynistic slurs, and above all, as every woman involved in this debate will know, TERF. Quote, I'll mention these things not now in an attempt to garner sympathy, but out of solidarity with the huge numbers of women who have histories like mine, who have been slurred as bigots for having concerns about single-sex spaces.
Oh, thanks, Moral Moona. I can't see you, but I'll assume you also are a cute girl.
Quote, huge numbers of...
Strictly dickly. I like that.
Women are justifiably terrified by the trans activists. I know this because so many have gotten in touch with me to tell their stories. They're afraid of doxing.
I'm not terrified of these people at all. Listen. You do this kind of shit when you're kind of at the bottom again, when you don't have a job to lose, etc., etc. That's how you eliminate the fear. Because if you've got nothing to lose, it's like, then I can do what I want. I don't fucking care. I'm not scared of anyone. It's great.
Of losing their jobs or livelihoods or of violence. Those are just a few statements of many that J.K. Rowling uses throughout her essay, framing trans activists as active...
Did I get sexually abused? Not sexually, no. I became this because I've always wanted to be more feminine than I am. And I transed because I got involved in all this trans shit for a while. And now I'm just here like, I'm just like this, you know, but I don't mind. So, hey, I don't know. Hope that answers. Listen, ask whatever you want.
Harassers online and on social media platforms. So this is where things get honestly complicated. First and foremost, I don't wish to deny that these things do happen and that those who support trans rights, trans or not, do this to people online. I'm not going to sit here and lie in this video and claim that everyone who agrees with me ideologically on trans issues is a saint. Trans supporters, again, trans or not.
You've insinuated that the majority of them are. I don't think that's true. I don't think most trans people are good people. Not right now. I think a lot of them are better than this shit that they're doing. But right now, I think a lot of them are actually quite terrible people. And most of the good trans people are the ones that aren't on the fucking internet. Can I remember the earliest memory? Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a girl. Like I felt very much like I wanted to be a girl. And then as I got older, like in my teens, like I grew my hair out. And when I left for uni around 18, I started like wearing makeup and stuff like that. And then I transitioned at like 25. But yeah, I was probably about 6 or 7. I can't really remember it very well though.
I have insulted, harassed, doxed, or threatened violence towards those that we label TERFs or gender critical feminists. However, the issue is that J.K. Rowling frames this as solely the work and job of transgender activists, as if transgender people are the—
Did she? Did she? The transition was more cosmetically motivated. I'm not sure. I'll think about that. Do you think there was an underlying reason? Probably trauma, if anything. I didn't get sexually assaulted, but like some stuff happened when I was younger. So either that or I don't know. I mean, to me, like gender dysphoria, I don't think I have a gender identity. I just think I'm very compelled to feminize myself. And it got to the point I was like still a guy, well, officially still a guy, you know, whatever. And like wearing, you know, basically going out almost in drag every day and people basically thinking that I was trans when I wasn't. And it just kind of got out of control, I guess. And then I started getting into the ideology a bit more and got back out of it again.
the only ones doing harm.
I have a few trans friends who are good people, and they tell me trans community is super cliquey and cult. Like, yeah, I'm the same. Listen, I had a local trans community, and they were all like that. I kept my distance because I had nothing in common with any of them. I have a trans friend around here who's normal, and they feel the same way. And like, she's really cool. Like, it's got absolutely nothing to do with people being trans. It's this weird ideology that people get pulled into. That's where the problem is.
This is patently untrue. Harassment, harm, and...
Did she frame it as solely one way, or did she just say that this was the experience she had? Oh, okay. So we don't have a fucking screenshot. Like, why not show what she actually said? I don't trust this like a fucking inch. Where is it? Okay. No, she did post the screenshot. Listen, I'm wrong there. It's fine. Happens sometimes.
Rowling does so by starting with the abuse and harassment that Rowling herself...
God, her moany little face is like irritating me slightly, I'm not gonna lie. It's my own bias. I'm not,
...face for stating these views. Activists who clearly believe themselves to be good, kind, and progressive people swarmed back into my timeline, assuming a right to police my speech, accuse me of hatred. Quote, I'll mention these things not now in an attempt to cause bigots terrified by the trans activists, or lively uses throughout her essay.
She doesn't mention it in reverse, according to what we've been given by Jessie Gender, don't forget that. Does that mean she's saying it's a sole problem that way?
Framing trans activists as active harassers online and on social media platforms.
Oh, hi Pablo Murphy.
So this is where things get honestly complicated. First and foremost, I don't wish to deny that these things do happen and that those who support trans rights, trans or not, do this to people online.
I don't think this isn't enough of a condemnation. Maybe I'm having a Piers Morgan moment, but I think you can condemn it in much better terms than this, quite honestly.
I'm not going to sit here and lie in this video and claim that...
Not the lack of it, no. Usually have streams or new uploads. Okay, listen, I appreciate you listening. I'm just talking about my feelings and watching trans shit, I'm just glad people are interested.
Everyone who agrees with me ideologically on trans issues is a saint. Trans supporters, again, trans or not, have insulted, harassed, doxed, or threatened violence towards those that we label TERFs or gender-critical feminists. However, the issue is that J.K. Rowling frames this as solely the...
This isn't really true from what I've seen so far. Like, what she's shown suggests that she hasn't mentioned it the other way, but isn't framing it solely as that.
...work and job of transgender activists, as if transgender people are the only ones doing harm. This is patently untrue. Harassment, harm...
This is an extrapolation. I think she's making stuff up here.
And insulting is not just the purview of one side or the other. I have already mentioned Maya Forstater and Burns' active online harassment of trans people, but they are far from the only ones.
You mentioned it, but it was like nothing, so I don't know.
Any trans person knows the dangers of talking or even mentioning TERFs in any way, shape, or form, facing similar violence, doxing, or threats of violence that J.K. Rowling herself talked about. Yet, even more so, these harassing and insulting views are much more directly prevalent on the surface of
my sister never put makeup on me as a kid.
Gender-critical feminism than they are for transgender activists. For one quick example, most of the main posts on the gender-critical subreddit, a main forum for TERFs online, are focused on attacking transgender women and repeatedly misgendering them. I myself personally have the victim...
Don't go on that fucking subreddit then. Like, I don't know. What are you supposed to do? It's like these people are children, and it's like, yeah, but how am I supposed to not read the stuff? And it's like, well, don't look at it. You have to explain these kind of things. TERF Island. Yeah, I live on TERF Island. I'm supposed to be like oppressed or something, but I don't really feel it, so I don't really know.
Of TERF abuse online, as I'll show here briefly. I'll show you some things that people have posted online about me in different gender-critical forums. Though, please skip ahead to the...
Why would you look this stuff up? Like, are you insane? She must have had a decent following at this point. That's an insane fucking thing to do. Anyone that makes YouTube videos is gonna get, like, fucking weird haters, like, talking shit about them.
Below time if you don't wish to see them. I understand it can be hard for many, and I'm not going to read them out loud, as I don't wish to subject myself to that.
What was the article? Like, this is just like edge post. Like, yeah, you're gonna get shit from people. Is it just me, or does she look a bit like trans harmful opinions? Am I in it for the culture of being part of the group? Definitely not, no.
Personal abuse, you'll even have to look at it while I'm editing this video. I don't share this to garner sympathy from you, but just to show you what me, a small-time YouTuber trans woman with not even a tiny percentage of the platform that J.K. Rowling has, receives simply for being transgender. I also have numerous examples of people calling...
Who wrote that article? Is that simply for being transgender? This is rather dishonest, Jessie.
...a freak, or an idiot, or delusional, or much, much worse on pretty much a daily basis on every single one of my YouTube videos. Even ones I'm not even talking about trans...
People hate on my YouTube videos plenty. Listen, every time I talk about like Jammy Dodger or someone else with a following, I get all these fucking retards showing up in my comments saying things like, don't you know that he has a PhD in psychology? Like, I have to mention it about a million times in the video because they only watch about 2 minutes. Otherwise, that's all I get. And all this bullshit, like these people saying things that clearly there's no actionable points in there. It's just, oh, your opinions aren't very good. It's like, okay, what do I do about that? How do I know you just don't like what you're hearing? How do I know you're just not ready for the fucking truth?
Or women issues, but just talking about things like Star Trek for fun. But it's enough to just be visibly transgender in a video to get the same level of doxing and harassment that J.K. Rowling talks about. Not all of those are from TERFs, by the way, but I do know a large part of them are. We can also take the example of Grace Lavery, a trans woman professor in the UK who wrote an article about gender-critical ideology. After publishing the article, Lavery stated, quote, "It led to a massive explosion of online harassment, which I just did not see coming at all."
Yeah, but what was the article?
People in the seemingly hundreds started trying to find me and just write insulting things about me. And that escalated to the degree that it was totally out of control. At one point, people were...
It's not even linked. It's not even linked. What was the article? That's relevant. What's her name? Grace Lavery. Not exactly. I had a lot of hang-ups around gender roles because I was always like very skinny and like kind of weak and gay. People thought I was gay anyway. I was actually straight. It's possible and even likely to be brilliant on some topics and then retard on others. Yeah, true. Was Grace Lavery silenced by her own community? I guess that shit fucking swung back. Wait. 2022? How many times has this happened? What the fuck is she saying? Interesting. Anyway. Oh, that one... Listen, like, they watched 15 minutes and said they weren't going to waste their time watching more. Most of their comments were completely stupid. It was like, oh, well, that's just your opinion. Well, yeah, no, it is my opinion, obviously. Like, I read through them. They're just pretending to try, in my opinion. I don't think that was genuine. You know, that's fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion. I didn't want to waste my time personally. This person wasn't actually trying to be like good faith or whatever. They just wanted to insult me as much as they possibly could. And funnily enough, everyone who responds, they don't give a fuck about that person being rude, but me calling them a moron, that's bad, you know. It's bullshit, trust me. Maybe I offered to talk to them as well. Anyone who criticizes me is welcome to click the link, join my Discord, drop me a message. Hey, I disagree with X, Y, and Z. Can we talk about it sometime? We can talk about it off stream if you don't want to be fucking on the stream. Although, to be honest, I'd rather people spoke on stream, because if I'm willing to put my name and face to my opinions, I think these fucking pussies should be able to as well. Well, this time it was withdrawing from a debate with anti-trans author Helen Joyce. I hate pink news so much. Abuse came after Lavery was suspended from Twitter for saying she hoped the Queen, who recently tested positive for COVID-19, would die. Lavery was suspended from Twitter for saying she hoped the Queen, who tested positive for COVID-19, would die. Why are you sticking up for this person? They seem like they probably give about as good as they can get. Whatever the fuck their article was, you're not telling us, because interestingly, you're now the one obfuscating. We don't know, but it kind of seems like someone who fucking gives as good as they can get. Are some of the chat messages AI generated? All of them are. I just like to pretend that I have viewers and that people care about what I think. Yeah, this seems like crybully shit. Like, I can't find the article. She didn't link it, which is great. Like, this is just going to be cooked as fuck. I'll just play it.
Posting the names and contact details and photographs, not only of me, but also of my colleagues at UC Berkeley online. So we can see that harassment and doxing are not solely the purview of trans activists. But TERF ideology goes well beyond simple online harassment or doxing, well beyond what J.K. Rowling...
Notice how we've no idea what the article was that this Grace Lavery wrote? How do we know? How do we know what the fuck she was saying? It could have been like insane shit. I still don't believe in harassment. I still don't think it's cool. But it's interesting. It's... yeah. My link didn't work. If they tell me that they're not going to waste time watching more than a certain amount of my video, that's an insult in my opinion. And also what people can do... Why the fuck is Olivia still in voice? Please leave. The other thing they can do is drop me a comment saying, hey, your link didn't work. Can I have one that does? Most people manage just fine. Like, I think this person was being a loser. Like, maybe I overreact a little bit. That's fine. If that's the worst thing I do occasionally, then I can live with that. Oh, you're doing research, fair enough. I'm one of those pick-me's, so you might not like what I have to say, but I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I thought they were attacking me. If they weren't, then they can quite easily contact me and, you know, not be a dick about it, but hey.
Has said that she faces. In fact, it's almost entirely clear that the entire point of gender-critical feminism, or TERF feminism, is based not around trying to advance women's rights, as they claim in their many words and essays, but to instead actively attack transgender people.
So they probably felt like they were being lied about. Again, I still don't think harassment is good, and also how much of it was harassment, how much of it was criticism. These people love saying that. It goes both ways. It kind of sounds like she puts herself out there in a certain way. I expect to get shit from people sometimes because I put myself out there in a certain way. Again, the answer is just stop being a pussy.
people and limit our rights. Let me just name two prominent examples. One, radical feminist Sheila Jeffrey went before the UK Parliament in March 2018 to declare that trans women were, quote, parasites, consistently using dehumanizing language that framed transgender people as less human in an effort to push anti-transgender legislation in the UK. A second example, the gender-critical group Women's Liberation Front petitioned the US Supreme Court in the case of Harris Funeral Homes versus Amy Stevens, a court case where trans woman Amy Stevens was fired simply for being transgender. The Women's Liberation Front argued that, quote, simply Amy Stevens is a man. He wanted to wear a skirt while
In a posh household. Like, I don't know, we were middle class. Posher than where I live now, for sure.
at work, and his gender identity argument is an ideology that dictates that people who wear skirts must be women. This is an
Oh yeah, that's fair enough, insane. That's why I do try and talk to people. I think a lot of people probably come off more that way. I get that with other people sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really know how to seem nicer in like typing. And if people are like going at me and stuff, then I'm possibly not going to be nice. How do I kick someone out of the live? There we go. Fucking Olivia was still in the live chat. Like by herself. Like what the hell? Excuse me. There we go.
Inaccurate on many, many levels. First off, Ames identifies as a woman and has lived as a woman for a very long time, and also was not saying that she was simply a woman just for the fact that she was wearing a skirt. Also, the Women's Liberation Front argument was going against the legal precedent established in 1989 by Pricewaterhouse versus Hopkins, which established protections against discrimination based on sex in the workplace. By arguing against Ames, the Women's Liberation Front, which, by the way, sounds like something Rowling herself would have come up in the Harry Potter world, were actively fighting against and trying to weaken the actual protections against workplace sex discrimination, something that helps women of all stripes, cis or trans. But for the Women's Liberation Front, attacking a trans woman was more important than general women's rights. These are...
Well, yeah, I mean, that's how they see it. There's a balancing act, and some people feel like one side is more important, the other side feels like their side's more important. Welcome to a disagreement, Jessie Gender. Glad we're caught up halfway through this video.
Are two of many examples where gender-critical feminists worked against transgender people's rights, often at the expense of women in general's rights.
Oh, thanks, Insane. I appreciate that.
And these are not isolated examples, but an ongoing issue. TERFs argue that they are fighting for women's rights in general, but often side with ultra-conservative groups in order to instead attract trans women. For example, in January 2019, the conservative...
Nah, Mischief just, like, types that way. That's just a thing.
Heritage Foundation, which supports limiting abortion access for women, held an event prominently featuring members of the Women's Liberation Front to discuss opposition to transgender ideology. Another example, one gender-critical group, Hands Across the Aisle, was founded by Kelly Triller-Haver, an anti-abortion conservative. Many TERFs have also appeared on...
God, this is just the Sean video again.
...on Fox News to espouse anti-trans...
Were any of these, like, gender criticals actually working on any, like, anti-trans shit? Not anti-trans, anti-abortion shit. Like, what have they actually done to further these people's cause when it comes to abortion?
Trans Rhetoric, a network that often works against women's rights. For example, Fox News repeatedly supported the appointment of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, something that...
So childish. That's against women's rights, I guess, but like, when you cut out about a million things, you have an old Nokia, that's amazing.
Many women's groups, trans or not, were against because of Brett Kavanaugh's horrific history with women. You'd think that a group, TERFs, that argues so vehemently for women's rights and that women are oppressed and controlled mainly through their reproductive systems, wouldn't work with conservative groups that actively...
Again, this is the problem. Those gender-critical people see these alliances as, like, tactical, because that's how, like, you do it in politics. You have to work with people you don't necessarily agree with on a whole load of stuff because of the things you do agree with. This person doesn't understand this shit. This person thinks that you should only work with people you're extremely closely, like, aligned to ideologically, and it just doesn't work that way. It's never going to work that way. And what happened is these people are getting fucking destroyed because they're not willing to play the game. This is what this feels like. It's like listening to people who can't play the game and are upset about it.
Go against women's access to reproductive health care and abortion access. But for TERFs, it's more important to attack trans women's rights and harass and attack trans women online and in public than it is to fight for women's rights in general. Despite their words, the actions of gender-critical feminism shows that
they're not doing the women's advocacy that you want them to do. Aww, poor baby.
Their goal isn't advancement of women's rights, but the targeting of trans women. These are
Conspiracy theory, reaching into people's heads, not interested.
all things, by the way, that J.K. Rowling leaves out of her writing. Instead, again, trying to make us feel sympathy for the gender-critical movement, framing them as solely...
So she's going to put in her writing, oh yeah, and someone who thinks the same thing as me worked with a far-rightoid. Why is she going to put that in there? That's fucking weird.
Victims of transgender activist online abuse. Again, this is not to belittle the harm that online harassment can cause to anyone, nor do I condone anyone harassing anyone for any reason, TERF, gender-critical feminist, trans women, or not.
That's part of adulting. Yeah, true. Listen, there were plenty of people I didn't like very much in my job when I was a letting agent. If someone was off or like had to go home early that I didn't like very much, and one of their tenants called in with like a maintenance issue, I'd fucking help them. Like, it doesn't matter what I think of that person. What matters is someone's got a problem and it needs fucking sorting. And that's what me and the rest of my department were paid to do.
Yet the goal of TERFs is to frame trans women as the abusers in all cases, in all things. And that...
How are we making this? Like, it seems like so many of these people have never spoken to anyone that disagrees with them. Like, this is so childish. I don't know how much more I can take of this, quite honestly. It's so childish.
Gender-critical feminists as solely the victims in any and all cases. All this also ignores the very real problem of grooming, control, and abuse within the TERF lesbian community, where TERFs attempt to brainwash other lesbians to ignore abuse.
Yeah, based on a Pink News article. Nice. Like, the TERF shit, yeah, it's kind of culty. So is the fucking trans cult.
Abuse and control patterns by their partners by laying all the blame for their oppression on the feet of trans women. This is an issue that I feel is incredibly important to mention here, but I do not...
I mean, I'm not saying this person is lying, but you are taking a biased perspective and running with it, like, all the way.
Have the time to adequately delve into it, but I will link to a deep report by Pink News on that issue of abuse and grooming in the TERF community in the description below.
Always with the Pink News. Listen, Pink News is fucking awful. Like, I don't know why we rely on it so much. It's a terrible news outlet. It's one of the worst ones out there.
So through all of this, we see a clear and
Listen, here's how it is. Trusting Pink News on some LGBT rights shit is a bit like trusting Hassan Piker to tell you something, like, measured and mature about the Israel conflict, you know? The woman makes me feel like I'm married to her and I forget the dishes. Oh, God. I don't even want to think about what it's like trying to have a relationship with someone like this. Like, listen, I don't know them, but I do get kind of manipulative, like, vibes from this person. Again, speculation, don't actually know this person to say that about them.
Consistent pattern of misdirection in Rowling's arguments. One that frames gender-critical feminists as innocent of all wrongdoing, and trans...
Didn't we get here from just not really mentioning, like, a live emission at best? We have taken the ball and run with this so fucking far. We're not even on the field anymore. We're in another fucking country. Weekly World News. I'm not familiar. Batboy solves Elvis death hoax with Bigfoot. Crazy. Yeah. I was thinking, like, for like 1,000 subscribers, I have these jelly beans that, like, some of them are nice and some of them are really disgusting. Like, maybe I should do the bingo, and every time I get bingo, I have to eat one of them. There's flavors like wet dog and, like, rotten fish and shit like that. And, like, I don't know, it might be fun. But, like, people can suggest videos that will probably get a lot of bingos, maybe. This is one idea. I like to think that most rational people acknowledge there are bad actors in both extremes. Yeah, definitely. And that's my view. And to be fair, it's not that she's wrong because she has said that as well. That's fair enough. But she's saying that J.K. Rowling is, like, pretending it's just one side when what she showed didn't say that. it just mentioned one side and not the other, which you can criticize, fair enough, but that's really not what Jessie Gender was saying. She's taken it so much further.
Women who turns to gender critical feminists see as men and part of patriarchal oppression of women, as well as those
Well, yeah, they see you as men because you're male.
Those who support trans women as the main and sole perpetrators of abuse against women. And J.K. Rowling then goes on from that framing to make her main argument that many gender critical feminists make, that trans ideology as a whole is actively trying to harm women.
Oh, it's not Bertie Bott's with flavor beans. It's a Jelly Belly thing. I can't remember what they're called. We had some of them. One of my friends came over from my band, and me, him, and Charlie, I think we did Cards Against Humanity, and whoever didn't win had to like have a bean. And some of them are fucking rank, so I'm like, there's still quite a few left. But yeah, I'm already regretting saying that. But I don't know. I want to do something for like my 1K, you know.
And focuses mostly her arguments on trans men. Quote, the writings of young trans men reveal a group of notably sensitive and clever people. The more of their accounts of gender dysphoria I've read, with their insightful descriptions of anxiety, disassociation, eating disorder, self-harm, and self-hatred, the more I've wondered, if I'd been born 30 years later, I too might have tried to transition. The allure of escaping womanhood would have been huge. Quote,
Being boozled, it might be, yeah. The more I think about it, I think it is called that. Yeah. So like, there's normal ones and like disgusting ones that look the same, like each one is like matched. And yeah, some of them, it's like you taste what's inside, and it's just, yeah, it is like no. I don't know if it's fucking borax or some shit in there. What's that really bitter stuff? Not borax, ipecac. Yeah, I think some of them must have something like that in there, because like the just what comes out is just, oh my god, it's disgusting.
I remember Simone de Beauvoir's words. It is perfectly natural for the future women to feel indignant. Quote, I remember too might have tried to transition. The allure of escaping womanhood would have been huge. Quote, I remember Simone de Beauvoir's
De Beauvoir. I think that's Beauvoir, but okay.
Words. It is perfectly natural for the future women to feel indignant at the limitations posed upon her by her sex. The real question is not why she should reject them. The problem is rather to understand why she accepts them. These statements by Rowling and others in her essays reflect gender-critical ideology and argument. The belief that trans men, those who were born seen as women and realized that they were men and transitioned to being men, are actually just women who have been tricked into just wanting to get rid of their womanhood because they see it as a form of oppression that they just want to shed themselves of.
Well, the alternative is that they know they're men and have known themselves as men since birth, and they were born in the wrong body, and they have a gendered soul, and their gender identity is something other than their birth sex, hence there being an incongruence. And that's preposterous, in my opinion.
This is decidedly untrue. As with trans women, trans men are men whose mental health greatly increases post-transitioning into living as men full-time.
We've bought the W path lies. We don't need to go through this. What's this?
Autistic girls are hugely overrepresented.
Like, how can you look at this and not think there's a problem?
In their numbers. The same phenomenon has been seen in the US. In 2018, American physician and researcher Lisa Lightman set out to explore it. In an interview, she said, quote, parents online were describing a very unusual pattern of transgender identification where multiple friends and even entire friend groups became
Yes, this is weird. This is fucking strange.
Transgender identified at the same time. I would have been remiss had I not considered social contagion and peer influences as potential factors. Quote, I want to be very clear here. I know transition will be a solution for some gender dysphoric people, although I'm also aware through extensive research that studies have consistently shown between 60 to 90% of gender dysphoric teens will grow out of their dysphoria. I'm concerned about the huge explosion in young women wishing to transition, and also the increasing numbers who seem to be detransitioning, returning to their original sex, because they regret taking steps that have, in some cases, altered their bodies irrevocably and taken away their fertility. Some say they decided to transition after realizing they were same-sex attracted, and that transitioning was partially driven by homophobia, either in society or in their families. And you know what? I'll actually give J.K. Rowling this. Yes, a lot of young women, specifically, are actively identifying as trans people at a young age and are trying to seek transition-related healthcare. But even given that, we have to notice a few things about what J.K. Rowling is specifically saying here, because there are notable absences in.
What's the proof of the W-Path claims that gender identity is scientifically backed are bogus? Well, I don't know. Is there even a consistent definition for what gender identity is? Like, I mean, the thing is, if someone's claiming there's a gender identity and that's the cause of like trans and stuff, they're the ones that need to prove it. Like, I haven't seen any real proof. That's my main issue, honestly. I don't see what mechanism there is in human beings for this shit. Why is she so nagging? She's an SJW, is what SJWs do.
Obfuscations. J.K. Rowling states the point that there has been an increase of 4,400% of girls being referred for transition treatment. She also states and mentions the increasing number of trans men who seem to be detransitioning because they regret altering their bodies irrevocably through surgeries or hormones, even losing their fertility. Yet notice that J.K. Rowling doesn't state what that transition treatment is for that 4,400%, nor the numbers of people that are detransitioning. You see, when J.K. Rowling mentions that transition treatment for young women, what that is in reality is not irreversible transition steps like surgeries or hormones. Instead, most youth are actually given puberty blockers, drugs that J.K. Rowling mentions is for that 4,400%, nor the numbers of people that are at the same time. Quote, I want to be medication where set out to explore it. The same phenomenon has been seen in transitioning treatment. Autistic girls are also aware through explore out of their to be de-irrevocably, and that's J.K. Rowling knows. Yes, trans men who seem to be detransitioning because notice that J.K. Rowling doesn't state what that transition treatment is.
I don't see how she's gonna assume that what she's actually talking about is puberty blockers. I don't know where she's getting this from.
Is for that 4,400%, nor the numbers of people that are detransitioning.
No one knows the numbers of people that are detransitioning. Your studies that you like to show, their numbers are all wrong. And like trying to actually pin down a percentage is extremely difficult.
You see, when J.K. Rowling mentions that transition treatment for young women, what that is in reality is not irreversible transition steps like surgery.
Well, it can be. She's talking about teenagers. Are they giving a fucking 17-year-old girl puberty blockers? I don't fucking think so. Have I covered Dr. Elson Kennedy's suppression of... I haven't covered it because, to be honest, my opinion is exactly what you think it'd be. I think it's really fucked. What I would recommend is Sky Vitteriti did a video on it, and that was really good. I didn't watch it on stream, but I did watch it. And yeah, it's really good. But I mean, really, I just think it's fucked up. I think, obviously, if they're covering something up, probably because it doesn't look very good for us, and it kind of confirms how I feel, really. So I don't know. I wouldn't have much to say on it, I guess. But yeah, look up Sky Vitteriti's video. Puberty blockers are reversible. They can be, yeah.
Surgeries or hormones. Instead, most youth are actually given puberty blockers, drugs that stop the irrevocable effects of puberty on their bodies. By taking these puberty blocker drugs, it allows them longer time to come to terms with their own gender identities and decide.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't have anything to say about it except, yeah, this is dodgy. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of thing I'm like railing against. But yeah, you know, I probably, yeah.
Later on, if they want to transition, when they are most able to consent to more definitive actions like surgeries. And by the way, puberty blocker drugs are 100% reversible, where, by the way, the effects of puberty are not. And as a study by the most able to consent to more definitive actions like surgeries. And by the way, puberty blocker drugs are 100% reversible.
Do I need to even play any more? I might not. That's egregious as fuck, is what that is. 100% reversible. So if someone takes them for years and goes through puberty in their 20s, that's going to be completely normal. So all this stuff about like atrophy, genitalia not growing properly, you know, not physically growing properly, your bones potentially becoming weak, that's reversible. That's normal. Like, oh, the effects of puberty aren't. The effects of puberty are what your fucking body does. Jesus fuck. Puberty blockers just the pipeline. Yes. Very true. Yeah, I mean, the thing with puberty blockers is generally they're being socially transitioned at the same time. They're being affirmed constantly. You know, they're being told that they're starting this thing and it's going to make them be themselves when a young child probably doesn't even know what being themselves means. I'm only barely understanding what being myself means at 34, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think many people actually understand what being themselves means, quite honestly. I don't think that many people know really what makes them happy. Plus, studies are not necessarily reflective of general population. Yeah, of course, yeah.
where, by the way, the effects of puberty are not. And as a study by the Massachusetts General Hospital found, 90%, again, I say 90% of transgender adults who were denied these puberty blockers faced suicidal ideation in their lifetime because they had to go through puberty.
I really feel like these kind of figures are very, very vulnerable to people's biases, especially the biases of people who are not going to want to say anything bad about their transition because they'll be worried. Because they'll be worried about the effects of it, maybe restrictions or something. Dr. Sting and Bowers had to admit there wasn't enough penile. Yeah, she had, I saw bits of that, and yeah, like the surgery conversation and stuff was crazy that I saw. It was so fucked up. Like, Marcy Bowers, should I say, she's been on record saying that all the kids in Tanner stage 2 that they started on puberty blockers, they weren't having orgasms. Like, they were unable to at this point.
An experience that is honestly really, really horrible for many trans people. Believe me, as a trans woman who had to go through male puberty,
You had to go through male puberty. I've been through male puberty. It's not a death sentence. Like, yeah, I don't pass amazingly well. That's okay, though. Looking good isn't the end of the world. Not many people get to. This person's decently popular on YouTube. I mean, we're at best on about a level, you know what I mean?
honestly really hard. It was one of the hardest times in my life. I personally spent much of my puberty wishing I was a girl and spending a lot of that time crying in the shower to hide my...
Yeah, you can see. No sexual function. Yeah, exactly.
Tears for my family. It is something that I wish I could change, but I can't. It's my life, and I'm happy with how things turned out.
Oh, wow, fair enough. Listen, if you got decent results, I had someone in London, and he'd been on a Channel 4 show. I think it was called like My Transsexual Summer or something, which I actually saw at the time. It was years before I transitioned. I saw it with one of my exes. And yeah, he was on that. He was already very experienced, and I have no complaints. Like I've been fine. I'm glad that I took the steps myself, you know. But I also recognize that it's not for everyone, and I'm quite special, I guess. Like I don't want kids. I'm very, very compelled to like feminize myself, you know. Oh, have a good day, Ham Popper. Good to see you.
Now, but going through puberty, something that I wish I could have stopped by taking puberty blocking drugs, was hard.
Oh, the trans cult is real, definitely. And this person is very invested in it. This person probably profits off the fucking trans cult decently. They're not reversible in any sense, not even precocious puberty. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
By taking the, again, reversible stop by taking puberty blocking drugs was hard. By taking through puberty, something that I wish I could have stopped by taking puberty blocking drugs.
This person has no idea whether that would have made them happier, whether that would have made them pass better, whether that would have done anything. They don't know. They don't know that they wouldn't have got a lot of health conditions from puberty blockers and stuff like that, whether their surgery would have been more complicated, might have been fucked up because of that. Who knows?
Was hard.
Oh, she's really, really close to bubbling. I really just want to get to the point where she cries and then stop. That's a joke. Okay, I'm not being mean. I don't need to be complained at again.
By taking the, again, reversible puberty drugs, you can greatly increase the
reversible
chances for trans men and women to avoid that outcome. And
this is nonsense. You don't know what's best for these people. You think because you've got certain masculine features and a male-sounding voice that you automatically would have been happier if you'd have been on puberty blockers. My thing is, I don't think male puberty or puberty in general is a fucking death sentence. I'm perfectly okay with who I am. It's not perfect, but you kind of get to a point where you realize that it's not the end of the fucking world anyway. And that having puberty blockers and shit like that still doesn't make you any more female, in my opinion.
enable them to have the choice later on in life if they want to go through a normal puberty or take hormones to turn.
It's not a choice. The way that people are affirmed, like, it's not a choice at all. Isn't it something like 95% or something continue? That's not a choice. That's just not a choice.
Transition irreversibly when they are older. Certainly, detransitioning does happen. And that transition irreversibly have the choice later on in life if they want to go through a normal puberty or take hormones to transition irreversibly when they are older. Certainly, detransitioning does happen, and that needs to be discussed. In fact, I'm actually releasing a
And that needs to be discussed.
video later this month that I filmed about a month ago before all of this J.K. Rowling stuff that talks about that very issue. The issue.
What's her detransition video? I'm just interested. I'm not going to watch another video. We're going to stop soon because shit to do, etc.
Hello, into
God, please stop. I love the side shaved head. Not that we're like social contagioids, you know. Not that trans is a fashion thing, but we all shave the sides of our heads, except me. I would argue I probably wasn't at full mental maturity because I'm somewhat stunted, but, you know. I hear what you're saying. Like, I don't think much younger would have been good for me because it took me a while to get my brain around shit. Okay, where was it? Where's this video? Where's this video? I mean, ultimately, it kind of, fuck, what am I saying? Ultimately, it's going to be different for everyone. Where is this video? I just need to find the... Because the thing is, the way these people talk about detransition is really interesting to me. Harry Potter to finally include transgender folks. Lovely. The word folks just always hits me wrong now. Like, every time I hear it, it's just, ooh. Okay, so this is basically, it's Council of Geeks, but instead of whatever the fuck they talk about, it's Star Trek. Imagine if they talk about the same thing, then I'd look very stupid. Where is this stupid video? You know what? I'll just search it. Wait, was she talking about the fucking Witcher? It always has to be around, like... Okay, I don't care that much. I don't care that much.
That detransitioners face and how their narrative has been co-opted by TERFs and people like J.K. Rowling for the conservative movement. But to give you a clear picture of this, only 2.2% of people who transition experience transition regret. Only 2.
This is a completely unreliable figure. The stranger link below. Every study that I look at, what tends to happen is they ignore people that disappeared somewhere along the line. They ignored like people who kind of, it's mostly like desisters, I guess. Fuck, my brain is like dying. But yeah, they ignore people that drop off for whatever reason. They often conflate what they mean by detrans. It can mean a lot of different things. They tend to ignore people that don't detransition using the same service or whatever. It's almost never the figure that they give.
2.2% of people who transition experience
Yes, this was in one study, and it's likely not great. I don't see this anywhere. I can't be bothered.
transition regret. Only 2.2%. Rowling is using 2.2% of the transgender population.
Of the transgender population? That's 2.2% of that study's fucking cohort. This is like insane. This person is fucking cooked in the head. I actually don't think I can do this anymore. Is it bad that I get Jessie Gender and Alice in Wonderland mixed? I don't know. Is Alice in Wonderland a different creator? Or Do you mean like actual Alice in Wonderland? The only reason TERFs became associated with the right politically is because no left or middle media would engage with them. Very, very true. Yes, absolutely. Very much so.
To argue against the entirety of transgender ideology.
Yeah, complete bullshit. It's of the cohort, not of the actual population. And I need to find this. I'll have to look at it another time. Because I can't see it here, and I'm trying to read all this shit as a bit. But yeah, it's very unlikely that that's even an accurate figure to that cohort. So yeah, I don't know. We've lied too many times, I'm afraid. I'm not watching any more of this. Yeah, there we go. My thoughts on Jessie Gender versus J.K. Rowling. I think that if this is the best we had, if Sean from Sean and Jen, or whatever they used to be called, is the best that we've got, then no wonder it's kind of swung back and hit us in the face, because this is actually pretty terrible. It's actually quite fucking dire. There's another 20 minutes, yes. I can't do that to myself. I don't actually hate myself, contrary to popular belief. Something about bathrooms. Do I need to know what this person thinks about bathrooms? Not really. I don't know, whatever that is. Yeah, I don't care anymore. I think she's lying about a lot of stuff. I think... I don't know. I need to collect my thoughts, really. But yeah, there we go. Jessie Gender.